Welcome to the RCX program Bodyworks Challenge for 2017-2018. Tonight we're going to go over the mission objects, the missions themselves, and some general rules. To start off, we'll go over the general rules. And basically I've had some feedback from different coaches over the last year and years. And the main thing I want to reiterate to all the coaches and all those involved with the school who are thinking of sponsoring, every team that sponsors, or every team sponsored by a school, needs to have their own separate robot. So if you have multiple teams and you have an elementary team and a middle school team, maybe you have some students from the high school coming back and mentoring with you and you sponsor a team for the high school. Every team that you sponsor needs to have their own separate robot. So if you have an elementary team and a middle school team, you need two separate robots. If you have a middle school team and a high school team, two separate robots. And the robot consists of the body, the brick, attachments. There's no sharing between anybody from team 1 to team 2. So if you even build the same or a very similar robot that uses the same attachment, they both need their own attachment separately, okay? So that's the one thing I needed to go over with that. Another thing, as we do the challenge, rule number 31, and that will impact mission 1 and mission 2 for this year primarily. But rule 31 states that when the robot acts on an object, pushes, pulls, delivers, activates, lifts, lowers, etc., on a mission object, the entire robot must be outside the safe zone. So considering your robot in relation to the safe zone, you've got your body, you've got your attachments that extend out like arms. Even the cord that many times is on the back side of the robot, that is part of your robot. So when your robot leaves, that cord needs to leave the safe zone as well. So keep in mind as you program your robot and do things on the mat to get the missions accomplished, the robot must be completely 100% outside the safe zone before it acts on any mission object. All right? There was one other thing that come to mind and it slipped my mind at the present time. It comes along with teaching your students. Some coaches are hands-off, some coaches are very active with coaching their students. I'm kind of a hands-on kind of coach. In other words, think of a tire. I'll explain to my students the diameter, the circumference of a tire. So I'll give them a small, medium, and large tire and explain to them how as the motor activates and rotates, the impact of that motor on that tire as the robot will go down the mat. So think of your small tire. One rotation of your motor, the tire will rotate one time and maybe roll 2 inches. You put a medium-sized tire, now maybe it rolls 3 inches. You put a large tire, and now maybe it rolls 5 inches. So as you're programming one rotation of your motor, the tires impact the performance of the robot. So as you teach your students the difference between the tires, demonstrate and show them how a tire works for your robot, but allow the student to choose which tires they put on their robot. One of the biggest concerns I get from coaches is, as you look at a robot, who built that robot? Did the coach build it? Did the student build it? Combination of the both. But as the robot is designed, constructed, and programmed, the actual design, construction, and programming of that robot should be 100% the students. The teacher teaches, mentors mentor, but the teacher and mentor never cross the line and take ownership in that robot. You guys teach your students, give them the opportunity, guide them, but never cross the line of, basically if something goes wrong with your robot, the student should be able to fix that, whether it's programming or construction. The student should be able to repair it, fix the programming. If the teacher has to repair it, if the mentor has to reprogram it, that's a no-no. The student should have the knowledge and ability to design, construct, and program that robot 100% from start to go. And this carries into the thing I was just slipped my mind. Other competitions I've been at, to alleviate any question as to the robot. At a competition, it is a good process that from the time you leave your car at the tournament site to the time you compete for the last time, a student is in control of that robot, is in control of the laptop. At no point should an adult be carrying the robot, even if it's in a case. At no point should the computer, the laptop, be open and the adult be hitting the keys. Now, you can put your password in so the students have access, but the students should have 100% control of the robot, its possession of the robot, from the time they leave the car, through registration, through the matches at the tournament, all the way to the finish. The student should have control of that robot. The same with your laptop. The student should have it from the time they leave the car, in the pit area, all the way. The only thing the adult should do with that laptop is provide the access code to get into it. After that, the student should be able to access the program, get the correct file on their own. If they have a flash drive, be able to download it on their own. The adult should have no interaction with that robot or with the computer other than logging in for the computer, right? And that's pretty much cleaning up with the general rules and some other things for coaches to consider. Welcome to the 2017-2018 Bodyworks Challenge from the RCX program. This year's challenge is loosely based on the table game Operation. This is the RCX version of Operation. Now the board is set up with a guy with some medical issues that you need to program your robot to correct those issues. We've got broken bones, we've got blood cells and samples we need to take, and many other things that your robot needs to be programmed, designed, and created by your students to address on the mat this year. So many times throughout this video and other documents, you're going to see me refer to this as the operation room. So we're going to do the medical theme, and many times the operation room is the board area and the mat. Okay? We also have a lab over here on our table. But as I go through the documentations and videos, just remember, operation room means the board and the mat. Next thing I'd like to go over is the Bodyworks Challenge, the actual mission objects, the set, and so on and so forth. So when you get your Bodyworks Challenge set, the unassembled set has approximately 350 Lego pieces. The set will include the mat and the dual lock to attach the mission objects to the mat. And then that gets shipped to your school, obviously. The finished Lego pieces I have assembled out here on the mat for you. And with the Bodyworks theme, I should have pointed out that there's actually 3.5 feet of dual lock this year that comes with your set. So I'll get these off the board and we'll move on with that. But the finished mat looks like this. So as we reviewed the mission objects, I just want to show you real quick for the dual lock. Make sure you place the dual lock underneath on your Legos and make sure it matches the letters D and L on the mat. I like to use a cutting board to place these items. You can get a nice square that matches up to the square on the mat instead of the jagged edges that sometimes the scissors will create. But if you have access to the cutting board, that'll make it really easy for you around the rest of the board. But I'm showing you the fractured leg here, so if you can pan down to see the fractured leg on the mat. Okay, I'm going to place the fractured leg and it matches the outline. All right, and as it's set, it's in the vertical position here. Now, you also have the jig that will be what the referee will score with, and that jig will fit right underneath, just like that, so that the yellow jig, the 3x5 L-shaped Lego beam, is touching the red Lego underneath the fractured leg mission object. When you push it down, as long as the mechanism is down such that the yellow jig cannot pass underneath without touching, you would receive a score. If the mechanism is elevated and the yellow jig can pass under without touching, at that point of the 3x5 beam, you do not receive a score. Okay? So we'll reset that right there. Now we'll remove the jig to the side. Now we're going to go over the actual operating room. So this year, as you approach the BodyWorks Challenge, you're going to hear me refer to the mat, the board, the table as the operating room. Obviously you got your safe zone, we've got our patient, and we've got our lab. And when you consider this, I hope I'm not dating myself, but this challenge is based loosely on the game, the board game operation. The RCX version, there's no electrocution if you hit the wrong item, and there's no nose that will light up saying you hit the wrong item. But we do have different body parts on our person here that you need to deal with. So, we're going to start off in the safe zone. And the one thing when we start off in the safe zone, as the team approaches, the referee is going to ask you a question. It's called the choice, which will refer to mission 8. The choice involves the kidney stones, and there's an easy choice and a hard choice. The hard choice, the kidney stones, will start the match in the safe zone. The easy choice, the kidney stones, will start at the kidneys. So as a team, based on your ability, you have a choice where these items start. All right, so if you choose the easy choice, the kidney stones will start the match inside the outline of the kidney. One kidney stone in each. Mission 8, you would have to retrieve the kidney stones back to the safe zone. So each kidney stone you retrieve back to the safe zone is worth 15 points. All right? Now if you choose the hard choice, the point value increases. All right? The kidney stones now become 25 points each. So the hard choice, the kidney stones, will start in the safe zone, and the team members must program the robot to deliver one kidney stone to each kidney. All right? So each kidney with stone inside the kidney is worth 25 points each for a total of 50 points. Easy, retrieve, total 30 points. Hard, deliver, total 50 points. You guys can choose, you can strategize what you want to do. The catch for the hard is it has to be delivered to the inside of the kidney within the outline. And let's just say, for argument's sake, you deliver one in and one out. This one's worth 25, this one's worth nothing because it's not in. Okay? So that's the first choice you'll have as you approach the table, and that covers mission 8. I'm going to put these kidney stones back in the safe zone. The next thing to help out at the start of the match is called mission 1, and it's the IV stand. Many of us have been at the hospital, at the doctor, and when you approach the table, the referee is going to ask you for your interpretation of an IV stand. It's constructed of Legos, and the key to this IV stand, as you hand it to the referee will take possession of your IV stand, and the referee has to have the ability to remove the bags from the stand. So therefore, the bag cannot be attached or connected in any way, shape, or form to the IV stand. It has to be on the IV stand, hanging or fitted on there somehow, but it cannot be connected together like you would connect two Legos. Okay? So the referee will inspect your concept, your IV stand. If he can remove or she can remove one bag, that's worth 15 points. If the referee can remove both bags, that's worth a total of 25 points. So before the match even starts, you've got the potential for getting 40 points just for creating an IV stand. Okay? After the inspection of the IV stand, the referee is going to take the IV stand and give it back to you, and then you as a team will now use that IV stand. Don't add any additional Legos, don't add any supports. The IV stand you presented to the referee now is used in mission 2. In mission 2, you're just preparing the operation room. You need to deliver the IV stand from the safe zone to the outline of the IV stand on the mat. And the IV stand outline includes the blue bags and the post and the feet of the IV stand. As long as your creation is standing vertical with no additional supports, bags on it, at the end of the match, you receive the mission point value of 25 points. Anywhere along this line. Now I'll just throw out there, make sure it complies with rule number 31, because if it doesn't comply with general rule 31, when you deliver it, you don't get the points for it. But mission 2, deliver your IV stand to any point on the outline, make sure it's vertical, make sure there's no additional supports, and make sure the bags are attached at the end of the match. That's mission 2. All right? Now, we're going to go on to mission 3. Well, maybe I'll just step back a little bit here. We'll go back to the safe zone. And within the safe zone, we've already discussed your IV stand and the kidney stones. You've got 5 bone marrow, the heart, 3 blood cells, and the eye. The 5 bone marrow are your touch penalty. They're worth 5 points apiece at the start of the match. Okay? I will discuss where you can deliver them later if you so choose to take the 5 points for a total of 25 and turn it into 10 points each for a total of 50. Okay? But you start the match, bone marrow, kidney stones, heart, 3 white blood cells, the eye, and your IV stand at the beginning of the match. Okay? So now we'll continue on to mission 3, which is the eye. And basically you got to take the eye from the safe zone, have your robot deliver it out here to the eye socket of our young man or young lady. The eye has to be delivered to either eye socket, either completely within the eye socket or partially. Either one scores the same. And if your eye is at the eye socket, it's 15 points. All right? The next one I'm going to discuss 3 missions together. And mission 4, the dislocated shoulder. Mission 5, the broken elbow. And mission 7, the cracked rib. They're all basically the same mission. You'll notice that there's an outline on the mat. For the dislocated shoulder and the broken elbow, you've got a yellow arm. And at the start of the match, the yellow arm will be located above the yellow arm on the outline of the mat. You'll also notice for the dislocated shoulder, broken elbow, and cracked rib that there are black lines. The black lines that extend from the base of these objects are the destination point of the yellow arm or the gray arm. And the very tip of the arm is the scoring location, not the entire arm. The tip of the arm is the scoring location. So you need to rotate your dislocated shoulder roughly 90 degrees to the scoring area. Your broken elbow, roughly 180 degrees. and your cracked rib roughly 45 degrees. Now you might be thinking, well, it's the same thing, it's rather easy. Well, your dislocated shoulder, friction is very easy on this one, so it's going to move real easy. Plus the distance to rotate, it's only 90 degrees. Your broken elbow, friction is a little harder. Plus you got to rotate that one roughly 180 degrees. And then the cracked rib is very low, and you only have to rotate that one 45 degrees. So all three objects are mechanically very similar, but as you design your robot and program your robot, the attachments or the triggering mechanism in the programming is different for each one. Okay? So those are those three missions, 4, 5, and 7. And the scoring value for the dislocated shoulder is 35. Scoring value for the broken elbow is 35. The cracked rib is 30. Okay? Now the next mission is mission 6. And you take the heart transplant and you need to bring it to the chest of our body and deliver the heart to the base area in the chest. For scoring, we all need our heart, so our heart needs to be inside the chest cavity. Okay? If you're able to deliver it, you want to deliver it completely inside. You also get a partial score if it's sitting here. The only thing you would not get a score for is if the heart is touching the base and touching the mat on the outside. The heart has not been delivered to the cavity area, so therefore you would not get any points. So, if you're able to deliver the heart completely till it's inside the base, that's worth 40 points. If you're able to deliver the heart partially on its side, resting on top, as long as it's not touching the mat on the outside, it's worth 25 points. And then again, if the heart is resting on the base and touching the mat outside, that's 0 points. So that would be mission 6, right? Mission 7 was the cracked rib. We already went over that. Mission 8 is the kidney stones, which is the choice, easy or hard. We've already gone over that. Mission 9 now is the clogged veins. Scoring for this is 35 points per vein. Maximum 70 points. You have to remove completely the vein from the base. So basically the Lego will come completely out. If the Lego is resting in any portion, you get no score because your vein is still clogged. But remove the vein completely outside of the base. 35 points each, 70 points total. Mission 10 is our fractured leg, and those of you who have been here and remember the Mars mission, we had the scoring jig for lowering the arm. So right here, when the match starts, the fractured leg will start in vertical position. The referee will use the 3x5 beam to use for a scoring jig. They will place it at the base, the red Lego. It'll be all the way in. And to score, the referee will place their finger on here. The robot must activate the arm downward, and if the scoring jig hits the arm, you receive a score. If the scoring jig is able to pass underneath without hitting the arm, there's no score. So if the arm is down low enough, it can be all the way down or partially way down. But as long as that jig hits the arm, you receive the score for activating the fractured leg. And the score for the fractured leg is 30 points. We'll move down to the sprained ankle. The mechanism will start as outlined on the mat, and to score at the end of the mat, the mechanism must form a 90-degree angle. So it's up to you to choose how to activate the sprained ankle mechanism, but at the end, this point here in the corner must be a 90-degree. So if it's the yellow beam that's underneath in the base, if you can see the end of it, it's basically not at a 90-degree. When it's at 90 degrees, you don't see the yellow beam underneath. Okay? And for activating that one is worth 35 points. And then we're going to jump up to the torn muscle. And I had a couple coaches at the last coaches meeting ask me, throw me some possibilities out. So just know that with the torn muscle, you need to take the muscle, the Lego, move it into the muscle tissue area of our leg. All right? It must be touching only the muscle tissue. So we've got our knee bone, our kneecap, and other bones in the here that are white. We've got skin. Okay? So if at any point the muscle, the Lego that represents the muscle, is touching the skin area or the bone area, you receive no score. It must be completely in the red. All right? The little black line that outlines the starting position, it can be resting on top of that. But just know that the muscles must be completely in the red. The first one that's put into the muscle tissue area is worth 10 points. The second one in the muscle tissue area is worth an additional 10 for potential 20. And if you're able to get the third one in the muscle tissue area, that one's in 20 points. So in other words, 10 plus 10 plus 20 for a total of 40 points. Okay? Now when you consider muscle tissue and you look at our body, you've got muscle tissue in our leg, you got muscle tissue in our arm, you have muscle tissue in our neck. If for some reason you move the Lego that represents the muscle tissue to any of these areas of muscle, and it is completely within that area, in other words, not touching any bone or not touching any skin, you would receive a positive score for that Lego. Okay? So the maximum point value for muscle tissue is 40 points. Our next mission is our EpiPen. And the mechanism is very similar to the sprained ankle, just a little closer to the safe zone. The mechanism matches the outline on the mat. And to activate, you literally have to move it just above the tissue area outline on the mat, which means all you got to do is nudge it about 1/4 of an inch. You can move it completely, the 1.5 inches if you wish, but as long as the yellow needle is above the tissue area, the skin tissue I should say, it scores. And for that one, because it's closer to the safe zone and a little bit easier friction-wise, it's worth 25 points. Okay. And the bone marrow is your touch penalty. You're going to start the match off with a point value for having your bone marrow. If you touch your robot outside of the safe zone, the referee is going to take 1 bone marrow away each time you touch your robot outside the safe zone. So potentially you could touch your robot 5 times outside the safe zone, and the referee will take 5 of the bone marrow. Right? So then you would wind up with 0 points. If you're fortunate and you never touch your robot outside the safe zone, you can deliver the bone marrow to the pelvis area. And they can be lying on their side, standing vertical, or partially in. The choice is yours. Okay? So the outline of the pelvis area is in white. As I look at what I placed on the mat here, you've got 2 of them on their side, 3 of them vertical. Completely in, completely in, completely in, partially in, so all 4 of those would score, and that one's out. So you would receive no score for that one. So if you keep the bone marrow in the safe zone, you'll start off with 5 points. And when you deliver them out here to the pelvis area, there will probably be about a 10-point value. So you increase their point value by delivering them to the pelvis area. Now remember, as you touch the robot outside the safe zone, the referee is going to take bone marrow away. So at the end of the match, the referee is going to tally up all of your touch penalties. And whatever bone marrow remains on the mat, either on the pelvis or in the safe zone, that will be the score you will receive. Okay? So let's take the bone marrow back to the safe zone. So that concludes the missions on the body. All right, the next area we have is our lab. And this is mission 14. And there's actually 4 parts to the lab. Now looking at our blood sample mechanism here, it consists of an arm, the base, and the tray, and then 4 blood samples. When the referee places the blood sample in the mechanism, it could be vertical, it could be upside down, it could be sideways. See how it's not completely in that little area? Or it could be laying flat on its side. Get in there. The only requirement is that when the referee places them in there, it doesn't exceed the edge of the tray. Okay? So the referee has placed them in there. Now mission 14A, you have a choice. Or you have to make a decision. And the decision for you is how many points do you want to achieve. So at the start of the match, you need to create a petri dish from Legos. In that petri dish, you will come out here, activate the mechanism, and catch the blood samples. All right. If you catch the blood samples in the petri dish, it's 15 points of blood samples. So 15 plus 15 plus 15, 45 points. One of them fell on the mat. You've now contaminated the lab. 0 points. All right? You cannot collect this thing at any future point in the match. It is now dead. But the ones that are in the petri dish are worth 15 each, total 45. You have to make a decision. You can leave your petri dish here and take the 45 points, or you can recover your petri dish back to the safe zone. And if you take the petri dish back to the safe zone, once in the safe zone, the team members take possession of the blood samples. Those blood samples are now worth 20 points apiece. So 20 plus 20 plus 20 for a total of 60. Okay? So you can do 15 points each at the lab. You can do 20 points each at the safe zone. Okay? Now we'll go back to the lab. Okay. And we'll reset this mechanism. Okay, 14B is the red blood cells. Now you're going to notice across the body that there are 14 objects that look like this. Now the referee, when he starts the match, is going to place one of these red blood cells on the outline on the mat. This red blood cell can be sitting just as you see it, on its side or upside down. The referee, at their discretion, as long as the red blood cell is touching any part of the outline, it's considered in its correct location, but the referee will place it right side up, on its side, or upside down, and there's 12 of them across the body. Now team members, you have the ability to collect the red blood cells and take them to the lab. So let's just say we're going to stay at the lab here, but I'm going to collect all the red blood cells out here. There's 12 of them on the mat. Right now I've got 9 of them. They are allowed to touch the mat. So I've got 9 red blood cells at the lab. They're worth 4 points each. So if I've got 9, you've got 36 points. To encourage you to program to get all of them, if you receive a 10th one, 11th one, or 12th one, you not only get the 4 points, which for 12 of them equals 48 points, you also get a bonus of 22 points for 10 or more blood cells. So potentially you could have a total point value of 70 points for the red blood cells at the lab. Now to score, you'll notice the outline of the lab. And on the north wall, you're going to see this little faint white area between the black line and the lab. Guess what, folks? The black line is not part of the lab for scoring this year, similar to the bottle toss last year. So therefore, the black line area, this black line and this black line is not part of the lab. Okay? So you can score with your red blood cells in 3 ways. If the red blood cell is completely in, you get a score of 4 points. If the red blood cell is partially in, you get 4 points. And if the red blood cell is sitting outside, you get 0 points. Now the question was asked, this black line, as long as the referee cannot see white, it's considered in the lab. Okay? On this black line over here, it's at the referee's judgment, but that edge is the determining point. Now, if the black line, if the referee can see black of the solid black line between the Lego and the lab, if he can see the line, it's not in. The Lego for the red blood cells has to cover the edge so that you pretty much go from the white of the lab to the color of the Lego. If the referee can see any of that black line, it's considered outside. Okay? So that's how that would score. All right? So the red blood cell has the potential for 70 points at the lab. The next one, starting at the safe zone, you have your 3 white blood cells, and with a petri dish again, you're going to take your 3 white blood cells and deliver them in a petri dish to the lab area. All right? So if you get your white blood cells over here in a petri dish, they're worth 10 points each or 30 points total. Now, if I have a petri dish, I'm going to destroy my little mechanism here. But if I have a petri dish and it's sitting right here, and my white blood cell is inside of there, the referee is going to look from above, looking down, and if the white blood cell in the container, in the petri dish, is outside of the border, the boundary for the lab, it does not score. Okay? The white blood cell itself must be in the lab or above the lab. If the petri dish is in the lab, the white blood cell still could be outside. So you have to make sure that the white blood cell is either partially or completely in the lab. And then to score for this, you got your white blood cell completely in, partially in, outside. So score, score, no score. And just remember, the white blood cell cannot touch the mat, so it has to be on top of something. Okay? So to go over the lab area, you got 3 scoring mechanisms right now. The blood samples cannot touch the mat. Okay? The white blood cells to score cannot touch the mat. The red blood cells, they can touch the mat, but these 3 items are potentially worth 60 points here, 70 points here, 30 points there, for a total of 160 points just among those 3 missions. All right? Obviously, with blood samples, you can take them back to the safe zone and increase their value at the safe zone. If by some chance you choose to take your points for the blood samples, they're worth 50 points in a dish, or 15 points each in the dish, and you recover them back to the safe zone, but in the process of going back, you lose control and they wind up located in their petri dish, somewhere on the mat, not in the safe zone, they're still worth 15 each. Okay? Because they're not contaminating anything, because they're still in a controlled substance or vessel. Okay? So you can move them back, retain your 15 points each. Okay? The last thing is the bacteria for the lab. I want to get my little demonstration piece out of here. Bacteria is underneath the quad, and that is 14D. And remember, the quad will be in this position here, so the bacteria is hidden underneath. So as you program your robot, remember you got to deal with this wooden board and recover the bacteria. Now, the bacteria will be set up on the outline, and as you look at it, it's got a head, and the head kind of flops around. Okay, so it can go up and it can go down, but it's going to start in this location. All right? So as you program your robot to take your bacteria, you need to take the bacteria to the lab area. And just like it's been explained for the robot, as long as the bacteria is over the black line, it is considered in. It does not have to touch. As long as the referee from above looking down can see it over the black line, it's in. So therefore, partially or completely, your bacteria has now contaminated your lab area, and you receive a score for moving that into the lab. And the point value for that is 45 points for putting the bacteria in the lab. Notice that the bacteria has a little white slide shoe on the bottom, and it kind of teeters. So you'll have to compensate for that as you program your robot. Okay? So considering all these items here, you now have 175 points here at the lab. Okay? So the choice is yours. All right? And the last thing is the quad platform. You've had a successful day in the operating room, and you as a doctor have decided to take a break. So at the end of the day, the team has a choice. Put a minifig up here, and if a minifig by itself is on top of the quad, it's worth 35 points. If the robot plus the minifig is on top of the quad, it's worth 70 points. So just remember that in order for the robot to qualify to be on the quad, the driving mechanism, whether it's tires or treads, must be on top. Attachments and non-driving mechanisms can hang over, but the driving mechanism must be on top of the quad. So if you have multiple driving mechanisms must be on top. Okay? And it can be on top on its standing upright or on its side. Just know that the driving mechanism, single source driving mechanism or multiple driving source mechanism, has to be on top to qualify. For the minifig to qualify, just like with the Ferris wheel last year, the minifig cannot be attached to your robot. It can be on the robot with a seat belt or some other mechanism to keep it from falling off. But just know, to gain your 70 points for the mission here on the quad, the robot plus the minifig must be present on the robot to count. So if you deliver your robot and it comes up here, but there's no minifig, you get 0 points. Okay? So 35 points for a minifig by itself, 70 points for a robot plus a minifig. All right? And that's pretty much the challenge this year. Check the Q&A, check the building instructions, the online, they'll all be posted. I'll try to get back to you if you have any questions with the Q&A as soon as I can. Usually that means I'll answer your questions over the weekend. But other than that, the total point value for everything on the mat here is 800 points. Remember to strategize the best you can. Look at it as a chess game. Sometimes the simple is the best option. Then again, sometimes hard can be the solution to put you above and get you those extra points you need. All right, thank you very much.